Chris got an opportunity to intern at a big company, but there are 20 interns and the company will only hire one person in the end. 2 months have passed and Chris still hasn't closed a deal. He decided to try a new approach, calling the company's decision-makers directly. But to his surprise, they asked him to come over. This sudden request caught him off guard, and he had only 20 minutes to get there. Chris hurried downstairs, but the manager asked him to help park a car at that moment, and the lock on the door was faulty. Chris struggled to open the door, only to find the parking spot had already been taken. He decided to look for another spot, but encountered heavy traffic, finally finding a parking space. He parked the car and hurriedly made his way to the destination. However, when he arrived, the receptionist informed him that the boss had already left. The opportunity slipped right through his fingers. When he came back to get the car, he discovered a parking ticket, adding insult to injury for the financially struggling Chris. On his day off, he brought his son to the boss's house. Chris rang the doorbell, politely introducing himself to the boss and apologizing for the missed appointment the day before. The boss didn't seem to care about it at all, telling Chris not to worry about it. He then made up a story about planning to take his son to a football game later, as he had learned that the boss enjoyed football from a previous conversation. Coincidentally, there was a game that night, and the boss invited Chris and his son to watch it together. Chris played a little trick, successfully enjoying the game with the boss. As the game approached its end, he seized the opportunity to introduce their company's asset management capabilities to the president. However, it was evident that the boss wouldn't trust millions of dollars to someone he had just met. Although he faced rejection, many people witnessed Chris befriending the CEO, which brought him important connections, and acquired several business cards from influential individuals. Life continued relatively stable. During the 4 months of his internship, he sold all the scanners, and just as he thought he would be able to make it through the remaining 2 months smoothly, a letter brought him back to reality. Due to previous delays in paying taxes, the US government seized the $600 in his account. Chris went bankrupt again, and the landlord kept pressuring him for rent. Life repeatedly dealt blows to Chris. But in the park, he found the homeless man who had found his scanner. This time, he finally got it back. And so, Chris embarked on the sales journey once again. He was demonstrating to the doctor how to use the scanner when he realized that the scanner was broken. This was his only hope. No matter how he tinkered with it, the machine still didn't work. The kind doctor promised that if Chris could fix the scanner, he would buy it. When the father and son returned to the hotel, they found their luggage had been thrown outside by the landlord. The lock had been changed and the windows were locked. Chris's mood was indescribable. He had never imagined that his life would be like this. Chris didn't know what to do and could only take his son to the subway station. To soothe his son, who didn't know anything, he treated the scanner as a time machine and asked his son to say the place he wanted to go.
What is it?
Dinosaurs.
Where?
You don't see all these dinosaurs?
He created an imaginary world and then led his son step by step into the bathroom. Then he locked the door. Chris wanted his son to think they were hiding from dinosaurs, not homeless and reduced to sleeping in the bathroom. At that moment, someone wanted to come in. Chris used his foot to hold the door firmly and covered his son's ears tightly. This was a moment of despair for a man. He felt like a failure, abandoned by his wife, uncertain about his career prospects, and unable to take care of his child. This was the lowest point Chris had ever experienced. The next day after work, he lined up at the church to vie for a free bed. The Great Depression led to a surge in homelessness. A luxury car raced past. The rich were unaffected by the situation. The church staff informed them that there were only 4 beds left. A homeless man immediately cut in front of Chris, leading to an argument. The person in charge wanted to throw both of them out.
I got here on time. I was in line. I came from work. I got my son. I was here on time. We were here on time.
He sliced in front of him in line.
A man stood aside, defended for Chris. Only then did Chris get a spot. After settling his son, Chris went outside, dismantled the scanner, and found the broken components. He also used the light outside to prepare for the company's final exam. From then on, he carried his luggage to the company every day and immediately took his son to the church after work. The exam was the next day and he needed to make final preparations. Meeting new clients was important, but the written test was also a criterion for evaluation. After the exam, he went outside and happened to meet his boss. He forgot to bring money and borrowed some from Chris. Looking at the remaining cash in his wallet, Chris hesitated. He solved the boss's urgent needs, but he was left with no food money for a few days. Sometimes luck was not on his side. If they couldn't get a bed, Chris would buy cheap tickets and sleep on the train for a night. Chris was eventually forced to sell blood when they ran out of options. On this day, they finally obtained a bed. Chris went outside and replaced the broken component, but he didn't know if it would work. Success or failure rested on this moment. Chris nervously pressed the button and the light illuminated the entire room as well as Chris's heart. The doctor bought the scanner as promised and they received a month's living expenses. That night, Chris and his son checked into a hotel with a television. This was the last day of his 6-month internship. The people he met on the basketball court ultimately brought him 31 business deals. But he still had doubts in his heart. This was not like a school exam where there was always another chance. This was a fleeting opportunity that could change his destiny. In the bathroom, he met the manager who praised Chris's performance. Regardless of the result, in his heart, Chris was an outstanding person. Chris expressed his gratitude to him. Finally, it was his turn. Chris was extremely nervous. What did his 6 months of hard work bring him? Will he leave or stay? Will he continue the desperate life or embark on a new chapter? Everything would be revealed in the next moment.
Wear a shirt today, being the last day and all.
Well, thank you. Wear one tomorrow, though, okay? Because tomorrow's going to be your first day. If you'd like to work here as a broker. Would you like that, Chris?
With excitement, Chris walked out of the office and onto the streets. In the crowded street, he raised both hands and applauded himself. He ran towards the daycare center and hugged his son. He would never let him suffer again. In 1987, Chris started his own investment company. Chris Gardner, the inspiration behind the story, briefly appeared at the end, paying tribute to his past self. Despite being repeatedly struck by life's challenges, Chris never gave up and remained steadfast in pursuing his dreams. It is truly moving, and even more admirable is his determination to seize every opportunity that comes his way. In the end, he succeeded. I hope everyone can be like Chris, never giving up and seizing the opportunities around them. There is no substitute for the original movie. A good film is worth watching it yourself. But you don't know where you can watch these movies? Use Superbox. With Superbox, you can access all live TV channels in 4K quality. It also provides access to over 13,000 movies and series, and updates with the newest content very often. The total cost for one of these is 2 months of your cable bill. Then you never have to pay fees or bills ever again. Click the link in my bio and use my code to get it at a better price.